Hello, everybody joining up. Welcome. We got a relatively full house today, so thank you for joining. We'll get started here in a couple minutes. If you've got a question, feel free to go ahead and put it in the chat, QA, something along those lines. We can start putting some eyes on it. If you pre-submitted a question as well through various formats, feel free to let me know you did that so I can make sure I'm looking in the right place. So, as usual, we'll probably get started right around 12:04, something in those lines. Just give people kind of a moment to trickle in. So about 2 more minutes. But if you do have a question, feel free to put it in the chat, put it in the QA, something along those lines, and we can start putting some eyes on it now. Thank you very much. All right. And for my folks just joining, like I said, we're getting kind of a full house today, which is nice. Nice change of pace. But if you do have questions, feel free to put them in the chat or QA, something along those lines, just so we can start putting some eyes on them, as well as make sure we can kind of take all the questions in a timely fashion. Because, like I said, we have above average attendance today. So feel free to put some questions in there and we can get started here in about, I don't know, 90 seconds or so. And if you pre-submitted a question, let me know that as well. We try our best to find them, but we have multiple places where people pre-submit. They submit to their CSM, they re-register for the webinar. There's a number of ways you can do it. So just, again, let me know if you went through that path and I can find it that way as well. All right, we got one. Thank you. Having trouble getting any type of match in the external truth table I've created. It's almost as if it doesn't recognize the input I've recreated based on the steps outlined, but still no luck. Wondering if there's something. So we'll get started on that one first. Yeah, we will get started on that one first. Thank you guys for the questions and all that. Ah, nice. Yeah, that's actually me personally. The forum posts. Yeah, that's me personally. So I appreciate that someone's seeing it. Um, yeah. Okay. So we're 12 before, about 30 more seconds. I'm kind of just doing a little bit of research on there. All right, I'm gonna go and get started. It's 12:05. Thank you guys for joining. My name's Robert, one of the trainers. I give it every day, but I'm gonna limit myself here to about 30 seconds. Um, about 30 seconds on it. Just be aware that we do post all these on YouTube. It's that QR code on the top right. The easiest way to get to it as well is if you type in decision support on YouTube, you can find all of our lunch and learns. We post them here, as well as we're posting videos. So like this is decision support channel. I posted these two personally on Friday, catch exception and like a repository primer, just kind of giving you the life cycle of a deployment and decisions. So as we go through, you can kind of talks about like, hey, how this works with your different servers and how to do hot fixes and stuff like that. So I personally added those the other day. We have events. I'll give it to you quick. If you go to decisions.com, we have events. So we have our first ever virtual submerse over here, October, but we also do them in real life. So we have one in Singapore, two in Virginia Beach, and one online. So it's like a 3-day boot camp. We have two different tiers. We have the foundations and the master class. There's that as a good resource for you. And then the last resource, just because I got some kudos on it and I'm the one who does it and I like hearing about it. But we also have a decisions forum. where you can find questions, as well as there's a category called Lunch and Learn at the very, very bottom down here, where I post whenever we have customer questions. And you got to realize some days we don't have them. But generally speaking, if we have customer questions, I have them posted out with timestamps so you can click on. Um, and the actual YouTube itself. So that just helps, like, say you're trying to figure out some information about data pairs. Ideally, the world that I want to live in, you can search for data pairs and say, and find the Lunch and Learn post right here and go, oh, look, they talked about it here. And you got a little conversational section to listen to. So again, that's the decisions forum, but I do that. Okay. So we got a handful of questions here. We're going to have to kind of parse through these in order. Um, great. So um, perfect, perfect, perfect. Let me just organize my windows. I got a bunch of them up right now. We talked about this. We talked about that. Let's kind of get posting here. So I will do some unmuting as well, just to make my life a little bit easier. All right. So we'll start with Turner with the question. It says, I'm having trouble getting any type of match in an external truth table I've created. It's almost as if it doesn't recognize the input. I've recreated based on steps outlined, but still no luck. Wondering if there's something I'm not doing correctly configuration wise. Yeah, I unmuted you, so feel free to add some elaboration. If you can't unmute, you can put it in the chat as well.
Yeah, sure.
When you debug, or are you getting any data out at all, or is it just not
No,
matching? Nothing.
it's
Okay.
it's not even going to no match. It's like the input's not even coming in, even though I type it in the debugger.
Okay. Interesting.
I don't know if I can send a screenshot in the chat, but I posted on the forum, I think on the 14th.
Ooh,
Um,
let's
I'm
do
just
that. I love
impatient
that.
to do the screenshot there, though, if you
No,
want to.
let's if it's in the forum, I'll do that. I love that. Let's see if we can do some deciphering here.
Like I said, the chat, I love the forum and I love the lunch and learns there because I look at the forum all the time.
Yeah, so we're talking about external, something along those lines. External truth table. There you are. Look at
Yep,
that.
that's it.
Okay, this is helpful. So truth table report is sourced by Flow. However, when I attempt to debug the truth table, I can't see the input trying to match any rows and no output is generated. So this is your input, that's your output. Got nothing from the 14th. If you when you click the inputs and outputs that step, there is no option for that. Like if you run debug, you said it's not even showing no match.
That's right. That's what it looks like when I debug it right there. It just looks blank. And the way I'm sourcing that truth table is through a flow. And when I open the report that sources the flow, obviously I see those rows there.
So if you're getting the data from a flow, what is the opposition to just using an internal truth table? Or am I reading that wrong?
So it's a form that's in a flow. So the form would be exposed to the end user so they could enter their rows. Basically just kind of use it as a router to send back a list of assignments, not assignments like Decision thinks of them, but a list of assignments for work to go to different queues in our system. So the end user would fill out the information about the queue into the form, and
Hmm.
then that would populate the external truth table. So that's why. Agree. Internal is easier if we didn't need like a form exposed.
But they're in the same flow, right? The form is in the same flow, or is it in a different flow altogether?
It's in a different flow altogether,
Uh,
and it just creates an entity.
that's the flow that I'm actually running right now. Yeah, thank you, man.
So basically what's happening, a list of referrals are coming in. And based on the matches in that external truth table, we want to match those referrals to clinicians' email addresses and output a list of where to send the cases, essentially. And the assignments or the people working might change day to day. So
And that data that it comes out of the form, is that stored in decisions or is that stored in an Excel on your device?
indecisions.
I still, I don't mind troubleshooting this with you, but I still really think you're going to be better off going with a normal truth table and just fetching that data. Because
Is
X
there a way to create a form for an external or for a user to add the rows to the truth table?
add rows to the truth table.
So if, for instance, today only 3 people are working,
Hmm.
and so I want 3 people to be active, and I want that batch of referrals that go in to be assigned to 3 people. But tomorrow I want to inactivate one of them. So tomorrow maybe we'll only want 2 rows that are active. So it basically just needs to be something easily changeable.
Yeah.
That's why I went with the external. I don't ever have any problems getting matches on internal truth tables, never. We use those all the time.
So you got flow. I'm just trying to make sure because I don't want to walk too far in the wrong direction, and I'm kind of better doing it this way. Flow two. So you got flow one with a form.
Mhm.
The form that is that where you decide who is there for the day, or is that where you're deciding something else?
Yeah, that's basically where you decide who's there for the day, or where you would edit the active toggle for that one particular person. But yes, simply put, yes. And if it doesn't change between today and tomorrow, they'll just all stay the same.
And then on this form, you're trying to use an external truth table to reference the output of this to populate it,
Mhm.
the first column
Yep.
of your truth table.
Yes. And that I can see that.
It does populate.
Yes.
Okay.
And this, if you look at the screenshot, you can see those are the rows. So it does populate.
And even when we go, and again, apologies on bouncing around so much.
No, you're fine.
Even when you go and you have a setup input up here in some capacity called
Mhm.
like users, it's a list of string, maybe just for
Yeah.
demonstrative
And when I
purposes.
add those, they do populate into the report. I guess that sources the external truth table.
And what do you have as your input here?
Let's see. The input into the second into flow number 2 or flow
Yeah.
number 1. The input into flow number 2 is a list of referrals. So I match the referral state from the list of referrals. So we do for each step. So I match that referral state to one of the rows where the clinician can work that state. So the input is a single referral for each step that should match on a single row.
Okay. And if you go in and manually populate this data with a debug, it does work or does not
It
work?
doesn't, no.
Does not. Okay.
Yeah,
That is a good
it's
question.
very strange. Is there, so I'm trying to think about the configuration. We have another flow that works basically exactly the same, pretty much exactly the same. And it matches rows, and we use that in production now. So I basically just created kind of the same type of situation.
And that's an external as well.
Yes.
External truth table.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh,
And it
yeah.
works, which is strange. So I didn't know if this is something that would be support ticket worthy. I could put in a support ticket if
I'm
that's
starting to lean that way. I don't mind troubleshooting it
okay.
for a little bit, just because
Yeah.
even with me drawing it out, I can't look at your stuff. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not allowed to. It's a company policy. Like the people in support have a different tier of like a NDA, basically equivalent, where like I'm not supposed to really look at any customer data at all, in part of my job role. So let's say adjusting analysts. I know it's not analysts, but
Yeah.
doctors or something, but let's call it that for fun.
Yeah. If you can't get it quickly, and have other questions, I can just put in a support ticket.
Yeah, I do believe because my initial thought, I really could be wrong here, and I know that we have other people, Will, Jeremy in the background. If you guys are with me here, um, my initial thought is that if the data is living in decisions, it's not a truth table. An external truth table is really going to be best for stuff that lives outside of decisions. Like if you have a CSV or something along those lines, and again, there probably are ways to route them together. But my initial thought is if our flow one is saving data in some capacity with any type of saving step, whether it's a user defined type or a set of process folder, any type of just saving that data, you can then fetch it as a structure. I mean, if it's just flow data, the data is gonna like if I just put a form and I have a red end step here, this could be part of it. Let's just, I know it's all in red, but this is my red end step. If I just have a form and a red end step, that data is not saved anywhere. It only lives while the flow is running. So then, but what is weirding me out a little bit is the fact that if you go and you set up manual input data, your external truth table is still not working, which gives me some hesitation on whether that's even set up right. But again,
Yeah,
it's just so hard to tell
it
without
might be configuration, but
um
it's the
because
same as the other one that we have set up, as far as I can tell. But it's behaving differently in the debugger.
reports can create, so I got a comment from one of our internal people. Reports can create rows on an external truth table. Right, but in order for it to go onto a report, it would, in your flow one, do you have somewhere where you're saving that data? The form data comes out and you're saving it somehow?
It's saving into a report,
Okay, it is saving into a report. So then it is
and the
saving.
report is what is sourcing the truth table.
All right. Oh, wrong one. Yeah, my initial guess, and I think I'm probably gonna have to defer you to go through support. Apologies, but my initial guess is that let's look back at your screenshot. It's just the debug window. It's not getting the data somewhat obviously. Like it's just the truth table. If you even if you're putting in constants through the debug, and you're not getting any output, like the truth table itself is not getting this left-hand column in any capacity.
It
So,
looks like it does. I can see it when I open it. I can see all the columns there, but it just doesn't. There's some disconnect somewhere.
mm, and I'm getting more from my side of the line here that they were saying, and I'll put this in the link for everyone if we haven't, or he hasn't. I'll put it in the link for everybody. Um, I know this is not ideal. I'll send it to you. But they were saying that in here there is a project example at the bottom that you can download and import. Wait, where is it at? Truth table dot table doc has a project example attached. Let's see if I can find it here.
Yeah, there's a section called example.
Yeah,
Where?
It's a little bit higher up. Yeah.
Okay.
I
So
can try to download
yeah,
that.
yeah. Try that and import it and see what the build looks like and see if you're just like missing a checkbox because it could be as simple as that. Like I feel like a lot of times I'd be running down pipelines and trying to change the architecture of a step when really it's just like, oh, you need the checkbox to say first result only, and that's all it is. So um I will, I'll also, let me write this down. I might just follow up with you too and see if I can help in any capacity later. Create external. And I'll maybe send you some info or just if you submit some more tickets, let me know you submitted it and then I'll see who it gets assigned to and I'll go talk to them and give them this recording so they have some context as well. Um, so they can listen back so they're not like kind of picking up from square one.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, apologies on that. All right, let's keep rocking because we got quite a few here. Another good question here in the QA. So the next, I'm missing, let me do some unmuting here. Participants missing. So the question's pretty straightforward, and then we'll get Radley, yours is next. So what we'll do, Amit's first. When I paste a cell range from Excel with color formatting into the decision's rich text editor, it loses its formatting. Is there a setting to enable it? Let me look on some internal stuff real fast and see. That is another kind of nuanced question. Excel color formatting.
It, it, so it basically loses all the formatting when I paste it on the text editor. So a very blank table is pasted there.
Is a good question. Let's see if we can do some building. I might have to make one really quick here. Color formatting for Excel into a rich text editor. What that's on a form, the rich text editor?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Pick or create. Let's create a new one. Let's call it a form. Let's call it rich text Excel color format form. Are you using a display or a text box?
Box.
Box. Do you want the users to be able to edit that information?
Yes. So in
Okay.
rich text, so I'm basically using this for users to input the information, which I will then send out in the email body.
Okay.
So when we try to paste Excel table, it's not pasting the formats.
It's not pasting the formats into the rich text body. I don't think it'd be in here, yeah. Good question here. And you're doing something along the lines of this, like obviously you have a send email step at the end, but just for simplicity and clarity,
Yeah.
you are pasting a
Paste.
spreadsheet.
Yes.
What do I have on here? Is junk data. And there's some color formatting here. Let's just say that this is red and this is green, just for fun. Something like this, and you're trying to
Yeah.
copy this.
Yes.
All right. Yep, it does lose it. You are correct. Okay. Let me think about what other controls maybe we might have here. No, this is going to help me. It might be something with the copy too. Let's see what our copy options are. Nope, still not that. Man. All right, let's try a couple more places. If not, this might be one. I'll talk to the dev team and see if I can get back to you on that. Let's see there. Omit, color formatting. Because it might be, I might have to talk with the dev team. I think they're in today in the back. I can go ask them. It might be something with, I know that with certain, there's certain limitations within HTML formatting with rows and column selection, and there might be something similar with color, how that copies over. I'm just not super familiar with like the CS bones of. We're getting a bunch of messages here in the chat too. This is a known. Oh, this is a known issue, DT. Okay. So Will, let me see if I can't pull up that DT right now. That's it. You said, Mr. William Clemens, you said that's a known issue.
That is correct. That's been reported to our devs. It looks like it worked back in version 8.14, but stopped working somewhere around version 8.20.
Which version are you on, Mitt?
9,
Nine.
9.1.
Yeah, it's been tested in 9 and it does not work. So the devs are aware of this, and we're currently working on a fix right now.
Okay, so it was working on the older version?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think I
8.14.
remember.
Yeah, it looks like, and I can't promise this because I'm not on the development team, but it looks like we should have this fixed in version 9.3.
And we're on 9.2 right now, so it should be the next iteration.
Yeah, 9.2 just released today, so it's probably going to be at least another month.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'll actually follow up with you and them as well, just to make sure that I'm not missing some work around. Um, but if it was working previously and we do have a ticket, I'm imagining that people went through every option that I would go through myself. Um, Especially if they're entering it in. Let me try one more, couple more places here. Oh, no, 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 no. All right. Yeah, I think unfortunately I've done my due diligence on my brain here. I'll follow up with you. I'll go talk with them here right after the session and see if I can get you some more intel or maybe a timeline on that. Like I said, Will actually works really closely with the release schedule. He's head of documentation, so he would have the most up-to-date intel on that. So, but just to see if there's some kind of workaround that might at least get you working in the time being. It's not going to be maybe not a super clean option, but maybe there's some type of
Yeah,
form flow or
that will be
something.
very helpful.
Yeah, no problem, man. I got you on there. So we're following up with Leah about external truth tables. Follow up with Amit about color formatting. Love it. Cool, cool, cool. All right. Cool. I'm going to go ahead and just keep on kind of grinding through these questions. Thank you guys again for all the stuff. I know the chat, the QA is going a little bit. All right, so we're on with Radley now. Let me make sure I can kind of mute it. I think I get what you're saying. I think I can figure this one out. I'll mute you or unmute you. So Radley, I'll read the question for everyone else in the room. It says something along the lines of, I have a REST service with a method that downloads a document from a system other than decisions. The download works and I see the file in C program files, decisions, flow data. I need to rename the file after it's downloaded. The download outputs a return ID. However, I'm unable to get the file document using the ID. And then there's a listed output method download with form stack signed document PDF. Riley, when you look in your actual folder structure, that C program files, flow data, all that stuff, do you actually see the file? Like does it I know it says it's doing that, but does it exist in that space?
Yeah, it's there. It takes the first letter of the name. There's a folder for that, and then there's a subfolder with the second letter of the name, and I see it in there. And I can open it, and it's what I expect. I just have no way to access it. While the other questions have been happening, I just still became I kept playing with it, and the ID, if I use let me get the right step here. If I use the get direct download URL, right? So I've downloaded the file. And then if I
Okay.
put in another step to get a download URL and I use that ID, it finds it fine. But I've tried use get by ID for both a file reference service,
Yeah.
and a document service, and neither one finds it using the ID.
Is and what do you plan on doing with the file once you get it back into decisions? What is your end goal?
Yeah, so now that I have it downloaded, I need to rename it, and then I actually want to download it locally. So I kind of had to take a two-step approach. I had to bring it into decisions. Because really what I'm trying to do is automate renaming and downloading hundreds of documents.
Yeah. So I hesitate on this one a little bit because I know this is not a best practice, but I'm going to kind of show you I'm going to show you some stuff that I've built out in the past. I know this is not a best practice in 100 different ways. Um, but um, a workaround, one thing to understand is by default, decisions is only going to allow you to download to wherever your browser has it set up. That's just a a nature of security of the system is that there's not a way to select a place to download a file where you're like, hey, I know we haven't even gotten it back into decisions yet, but I just do got to kind of say that there's not an easy way. Like depending on where you have your browser system settings set up um, to download stuff is by default whenever you're going to download stuff from decisions. So like mine is set up to see my name downloads. By
Sure.
default, that's just the nature of the beast. It's going to go there.
Yep.
Again, there's a number of not best practices followed here. So, but what I did in this instance, I don't know if this is helpful at all, and if it's not, we can kind of fill in the gaps. But I can load files to get file data from a particular location. So, like for your use case, I could hypothetically change this to something like this and then go in and go, I want to do this and do merge plain text and then whatever file you have to have some type of variable to specify which files you want. Or if you just say flow data, it'll get me all of them. Let's see what it looks like, which is I guess we gotta make sure that it has my information on here.
And if you leave it at flow data, it'll look through all the subfolders and the subfolders of subfolders.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So like with I can build let me undo this and then re-break this out into what I had it. So deletes, I have a bunch of these, unfortunately. So I'm loading all files. Oh, I did save that, didn't I? Dang it. Let's just take my downloads folder. It's atrocious. My downloads folder is like horrifically packed full of things. Let's see if it'll just get all of these. Should copy as path. Close out of this. Take this to a constant directory. So this is my downloads folder. I got to get rid of these parenthesis brackets, quotations, I mean. Um, so just for simplicity, I'm only going to download the things that have an extension of a PDF, just because I don't want to change that step right now. But um, as we go through here, um, this shows me every PDF I have in my downloads folder. I made a form to show these things. Um, let's just to get out of this. Like if I go to inputs and outputs with load or file data, it shows me every folder within a folder within a folder. It shows me everything in that folder that has a PDF extension to it. I can then select a file. Nope, not that one. Apologies to that person. Um, But what I ended up doing here, if this ever populates through, is it's going to error out right here. I already know it on rename. But what I ended up doing is, um, yeah, there's my error. Um, what I ended up doing, I'll track out this way. Using this load from file data, so I pulled from a place, downloads. I then converted this outputs file data. I then used this load from file data. And what that allows you to do is say, hey, take that file data and then output a file reference. Why am I doing that? Because on an end form session, you're given the option to open URL, and you can make the URL, that file's URL, as a part of that file reference. So you can say, hey, end form session, I'm going to open a URL. The URL is the file URL from file reference. And then with this, it takes that file and adds it to my downloads folder. See if I can sort by date modified. It already moved it, but it added it to my downloads folder, and then I paused the flow for a moment, 3 seconds, I think, 5 seconds, so that it could fully download in case it was a large file. And then I went in and did a merge plain text and said, hey, I want to rename this file, which I guess you're not going to need to do. You could just do move file, and I moved the file from my downloads folder with the header that I changed to a new location, and I moved it to a new location. So you can't, again, through decisions, you can't move it to a specific place, but you can download it into your downloads folder and then use decisions to move it into another folder. And the way that I got it to download was by converting that file data to file reference and then opening a URL with the file URL. With me saying that, I know that's probably on the fringes of your actual ask, but I just wanted to kind of specify a workflow that I maybe have used. So with that in mind, like what is your use case again? You're trying to take it from flow data, seed decisions, program files, flow data, and you're trying to move it somewhere else with hundreds of files, like iterating through it.
It's nothing that the movement, other than the bulk move from decisions to a local directory,
Yep.
the ultimate place is something that can't be automated, right? So I'm trying to get it. We're putting it in what's called a staging folder, and from there, a person's going to have to manually filter those out to the correct locations. So it's a signing process, right? So it's not Adobe Sign, it's like Adobe Sign. So people assign, they sign these items. From there, I want to download these hundreds of signed documents, right? That are going to be downloaded with some sort of GUID. We have a naming convention that I can access and work with. So I want to handle that, and then I want to download it all locally for the person who's running this process. And right now I can do everything except rename because I can't access the document. I know it's there, but the ID doesn't get me, doesn't pull up that document.
Let's see if anybody. My initial thought is and this is just maybe me being a little new with it, but there's a million different IDs. My guess is that ID is not the right ID, because you have like when you make there's just a million identifiers for different
Sure.
types of things. But just for clarity, you have files here in your C/flow data, allegedly. We
They're
think
there.
there's,
Yep.
yeah,
I'm looking right at them. Yep.
cool. So the files exist. We have flow information where we're going through and we're signing them, right, in the flow.
They've already been signed. The
Okay.
documents that I'm downloading are the signed documents. Though that's what's in FlowData. I now want to rename those and then download those locally.
So in the flow, we're renaming.
Yes, that's
Cool.
the idea.
Right on.
And that, just another point of data for you. When I use the get direct download URL step with that ID, I get a URL and the file downloads to my downloads folder. It's still named with that really ugly GUID, but that ID is referencing that document.
Nice. Yeah. So if it's going to your download, So let's just draw one more little line here. So local, this is the actual, we're going to call this actual destination, and attached to this destination, that's where we want it. But we can get it to an extension off of this into the downloads folder. Right? You're saying you can actually get it into downloads?
Yeah. Yeah,
Nice.
with
Okay.
with the original name that is completely meaningless.
So ugly name. Got
Yep.
it. Ugly name. So basically all we really actually want to do is go from downloads ugly name into destination with nice name.
Sure, we can do that. Yep, that's what we're trying to do.
Let's go. I like that. Okay. Yeah, we can definitely figure something out on that one for
And
sure.
that downloads, just to be clear, that downloads is on my laptop. It's
Mhm.
not the server downloads folder.
And that's what you want, right? You want it on your
Yep.
local device?
Yep.
Yeah. Cool. So I think we can actually just take this flow, like and again, thank you for all the clarity. This is super nice.
Sure.
But so this is going to exist in this space. We're trying to go from ugly downloads to destination, nice name.
Yeah, and if we want to rename it after we download it or before we download it, I don't necessarily care. I just not sure how to do that.
Oh yeah, true. I guess we could do it on the way in. All right, man. Let's do it. We'll build it out real quick. I'm going to leave this ugly drawing on the screen though for a moment. Something like that.
Yep.
All right. So let's just assume I'm going to go through and do what I had there. All right, so we're loading the file. We're going to load. Let's just get a file path of a random file here. This text document, copy path. All right, make this a constant just for hypotheticals here. Remove these quotation marks. All right, so we're loading that file like that. And this is output and file data. This will allow us to convert it to file reference. We'll pick the output of this. We're now getting file reference. I can do an end form session to go to my downloads. In this process, I'll rename it, I think. Well, maybe I can put the rename before that. Load and rename file is actually kind of nice. We'll see if we can.
What that does. Okay, if we don't miss any price, then we go to 1 and 2.
I'm not sure if I need this full path. I'm just going to try it. All right, so then we're still going to get from load from file data output end form session. Let's just see what this looks like. Let's just see what this looks like. File URL. Let's just see what this looks like in its current iteration before we start. All right, so I went through. Nice. Okay. So I was able to do you see it here on my screen?
Yeah, we got it.
All right, cool. So I was able to pretty rename it. So that at least gets us there. So load and rename file is nice for that. If you wanted to do something dynamically, you could do a merge plain text.
Okay.
And run that dynamically. So if you have variables, you could say, instead of naming it that, you could say, I want to actually name it this, and then let's just say hypothetically that this is the variable that we want to name it. It's not obviously, but just say that it is. However you want to populate that new naming system. If you're going through hundreds of files, you're probably going to want some type of for each or get next ID or something like that. Depends on how you want to name it. But that would then, let's see if I run this again. No, it's broken on that. Maybe because that data doesn't exist. Here's how we'll test this. Now we're getting a little crazy here, but why not? Dynamic naming as a string. So hypothetically, we have a field that's called dynamic naming. We'll go show editor here. We'll do this, and we'll call this dynamic naming because I think that other thing might not even existed. So now if I debug and say, hey, we want to call this prettier name, which I don't think I even spelled that right. Oh, because I renamed the file the first time. Dang it. Okay, hold on. That file is because I renamed it out of my downloads the first time, it's no longer there. Let's take this text file, text document. We'll rename this. Because I was trying to pull something that doesn't exist anymore. Save, download. Prettier name. There you go. That one worked. So let's just make sure that we got something called prettier name in here. Nice. Okay. So that's how you could, do you understand the process of that merge plain text bit?
I do, yes. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
great.
So you could, hypothetically get that data from the flow somewhere else. I just did it hard with a debug. Cool. So we end the form session. I feel good. That downloads the file. And then if we wanted to move, again, I know it's generally not a best practice to do a lot of pause flow stuffs. Uh, compute in the future offset by a couple seconds, just so you have time to download it. You
Right.
don't want, if this step takes milliseconds to get from here to there and your download takes one whole second, it'll end up being like, hey, that thing isn't there. But from there I can go, okay, we've already renamed it. I should be able to move file. Nope, just move file. And I should be able to populate some of this dynamically. So I should be able to go, my file name is going to be the full path. Will this give me the full path? Maybe something like this. Merge plain text. Take this file path, and we're getting kind of in the weeds here. My downloads file path, copy as path. I'm going to clear these drawings. Okay. Downloads / dynamic naming, load and rename file name. So we're going, okay, we're pausing it for a second, and then we're looking in our downloads folder to find that load and rename file name output. And then let's move it to somewhere on my desktop, and let's see if we can get that thing to work. And I think in the world I want to live in, it will work. So we're going to put it in confidential company information here. Constant. There's nothing in there. That was just for me testing. There's nothing actually confidential in there. Okay. So I'll have to get that file name again. And again, this stuff you could get really dynamically, but let's say here, where's another text file, like a little tiny text file. Here's one. Copy as path. All right, so I'm gonna talk my way through this. Hopefully I'm live. Picked a new file because it's not renamed. I am renaming it. I'm then loading from FileData to get a file reference so that I can end the form session and open that URL, which will go to my downloads folder. I'm going to pause for 5 seconds just to give it time to download, and then I'm going to move based on the downloads folder, that renamed output, and I'm going to move it to, ideally, my company confidential information. Let's see. And I'm going to call this prettiest name. Countdown from 5 here. Nope. Could not find the file. Well, that's not the prettiest name. So maybe I selected the wrong thing on move file. Load and rename file name. Oh, that file doesn't exist. Jeez. I'm just gonna grab my first one here. I don't even care. Copy as path. For some reason, it's not renaming here. Nor is it renaming there. But we got it to rename the first time. Maybe I'm going crazy here. So we can't find this file for some reason. It goes to my downloads folder. I'm getting it in here into my downloads. Let's see what this path looks like. I know we're going kind of crazy into the weeds here. Yeah. Which should hypothetically be that. So it does exist in my downloads. Oh, you see what it is?
Yeah.
It's this. I used the wrong direction backslash. That's what it was. It's always the little things. I was going with the wrong direction backslash, so I couldn't find it. I was using a forward slash or whatever. Load and rename file name. I think now we should be live. All right, let's check another. Get file, copy as path. We're going to take prettiest here. All right, we're loading, we're downloading, we're pausing, we're moving. No red is what we're looking for here. Oh man. Could not find the file. Prettiest name. So I guess it's not outputting that rename file. It's outputting, I don't know if that's a known issue or something, but it's because it is downloading it. It does exist. It's saying we can't find it, which is maybe part of your problem. But here, if I type in nicer, it does exist right there. But then on this, when I was debugging, it was still looking for prettiest name. So let's try one more thing here. And if not, I might have to just follow up with you as well. I'm gonna try rename file. Actually, just delete that, copy this because I already have it provisioned. A little bit of a build out here, but all right. So now if we're going to rename it, let me just go ahead and steal that whole path there. Downloads, nicer, copy as path. And if anyone on our side has any insight too, you're more than welcome to kind of drag me out here. And the fact there's no extension there is a little odd. Constant. And some of this you'll have to you definitely can do it dynamically. I'm just doing it as hard constants to make sure stuff works. But once you kind of get like that, that's what I had on the other one. I had just been messing with it too much. But I was dynamically populating the tail extension. So I'm going to load from download slash nicer name, if I remember correctly. Nicest name. No, we're loading the nicer name. Allegedly renaming, but that didn't seem to be working. We're converting, we're downloading, we're taking a second. We're going to rename from nicer name to nicest name. And then we're going to pause. And then we're going to move nicest name. And we're going to move it to company confidential information. So we're fetching nicer name. We don't have anything dynamic. We're just going hard constants for everything. That doesn't matter. Allegedly. Allegedly it worked. Let's look in this company confidential information. There it is. Okay. So that does work. If you want, I can export this little bit out to you, but yeah, I was having trouble, I think, just keeping track of all of the dynamic names and the name changes, and I think going nice name, nicer name, nicest name was probably more confusing than it was worth. But essentially, what you can do is you can load the file and then just rename later in the process. This load and rename, it doesn't output that rename name for some reason. You can load from file data, turn it to file reference, because as a part of file reference, there's a URL associated with it. That's a part of that structure. That's a part of this file reference structure, the URL. You say, I want to open that. So then it will download into your downloads folder. You can then use a rename step to say, hey, I want to rename whatever that name was to a newer name. And again, you hypothetically should be able to populate this with merge plain text and using some type of modifier here, variable.
Yep.
And then you can pause for a moment to give it a second to rename, and then you can move the file to another location.
Awesome. I appreciate that, Robert. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry for the long build, but
No worries.
hopefully that works for you. Do you want me to send you any of this stuff?
Sure, that'd be great.
Cool, man. Radley. All right, y'all. We got quite a bit in there. At least we got one solid one under our belt. It took a long build to get there. And again, you know, what's crazy is like, I actually I had that built out over here, but I just wanted to rebuild it. I think with this, I messed with this too much, like put a space in here or something. And I was trying to fix it because I was trying to make a video around this exact concept, but conceptually it's the same process, except we're adding a watermark, but getting a file URL. And I think with this, I am doing some dynamic stuff. Yeah, see here it is, I am doing it dynamic. I'm saying, hey, I want to rename it something based on another output, taking this dynamically. You can put it in a loop and do the same process, but hopefully that's helpful. Any more questions? Anybody got anything? And thank you guys all again for your patience. I know it's been a whole hour, but I think we're good. So I appreciate y'all. This will be on YouTube. Radley, Leia, and Amit, I'll send you guys follow-ups, but thank you very much. We'll go ahead and end it for now. Enjoy the rest of y'all's day.